So let's do the thing where we introduce you. We're gonna have some of that stuff before, not the.
Yeah. That's why I clapped kind of when it started. And
Right. Yeah. You'll see the clap. So, everybody, that is Mark Lanham II, right?
Technically, no. Like, it's not my name, but it is. I do have my father's name. Yeah, we have the same name, but I'm not like Junior, on my birth certificate.
Do anybody do that? Do anybody do that?
Do anybody do that? No, we just had different middle names.
Oh.
Which they did intentionally because they didn't want me to be a junior.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But anyway, yes.
So that's Mark Lanham. That's all.
The second, if you please.
And Mark is just so much fun. That's literally, we just have good conversations. And so I was like, you should come on the Learning Loop podcast. And so welcome, Mark, to the Learning Loop podcast. Say like something to give people a flavor of you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Say like, what do you do? I don't know.
I'm uneducated.
That's how I spend most of my time.
Proceeding to not learn things. No, I'm just a regular guy, late 20s, 28 to be exact. I am a musician, singer-songwriter. That is my craft, guitar player. And I would like to say that, I would like to think, is what I meant to say. I would like to say, oh, these things are hurting I'm just going to take these off for a sec.
Are they hurting you?
Just with the stems of my glasses.
Yeah.
The earpiece, rather.
Do you ever think about getting LASIK?
Oh, like every day of my life, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, I loved it.
You had LASIK?
I had it, yeah.
Oh my gosh. What was your prescription before?
Not bad. And it had stabilized.
Mine's like negative 2.5. Been that way for like 3 years.
Oh, then you're probably eligible, right?
I would think so. I have astigmatism. Anyway.
I had astigmatism.
And they fixed it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's sick because before I'd always wear contacts. Annoying.
Dude, I can't do contacts. I've switched to dailies every once in a while. I'll put in a daily.
Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Dude, they just
it's annoying.
burn and they dry out.
But your glasses look good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Shout out Zenny Optical online. $20.
Cool.
This is not a paid promotion.
At Black Market?
No, regular market.
Sure.
No, but I would like to think, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I enjoy thought-provoking things,
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at I enjoy day-to-day living, genuinely. Like meaning I enjoy just my human connections and doing my day-to-day things and not having to worry about existential things or a lot of more deeper,
You're a small potatoes guy.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But that being said, I really do enjoy thought-provoking discussions and things that make people question why they're doing something or how they're doing something. And I not in like I don't have a podcast of my own. I don't really consider myself a lecturer or a spokesman. Is that a word? Is that a word?
Yeah, those are both words.
Spokesman
Whether they
is
make
definitely
sense
a word.
here, no, but they're words.
But
if you're looking for words, you found them. You got them.
But I enjoy a good discussion as well as the next guy.
Yeah, I think that you're like a good conversationalist.
Thank you.
And so
I'd say that's one of my strengths.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Comfortable talking.
You're very disarming.
Oh man, I found
we have to figure out how to keep my from like
we'll just
destroying the
compress
recording.
it later.
We'll compress it, yeah. We'll compress
super compress.
I do feel like a portal to hell is opening every single time that I laugh or like accidentally let out too much air.
Just turn your head. Maybe we could do that.
Yeah.
Woof. That old
the old Heimlich,
that old showman trick. I knew a showman.
That old spokesman trick.
I've never said spokesman in my life. I got nervous. The camera and the
lights. The heat.
It is a little warm in here.
It's a little warm.
It could be
in here.
cooler.
It could be cooler. Should we move to the next booth and figure all that out again? It took us probably 45 minutes.
You think?
To figure
I don't
out.
even know what time it is. Yo.
It's 3:30, dude.
Is it?
Yeah. So we should probably start talking a little bit about
something way different.
the year 962.
Yeah, it's 5:58 on here.
Rip Van Winkle sucking on the peach pit.
Is that a band name or? Gosh.
No, Rip Van Winkle is the guy who goes and finds the elder statesmen in the mountains.
The
and
spokesman.
Yeah, the spokesman. And they're playing chess, and one of them is eating a peach. And like Rip Van Winkle's just a total dog, throws him the peach pit, and Rip Van Winkle's like, "Lucky me!" Grabs the peach pit, sticks it in his mouth, and is sucking on it. And he's like, "This is the most delicious peach pit." He's watching these guys play chess, and then he goes back to his village. And it's like 1,000 years later or something.
But sorry, what is it? This is a movie? What are we?
I
don't know who this is.
It's a story.
Oh, okay. Fiction.
It's an account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fiction.
It's a narrative.
Yeah. One of many we tell ourselves.
One of many we tell ourselves. So, anyways, today on the Learning Loop podcast, we talk about Learning Loop. Mm-hmm. And so Learning Loop, as a refresher, is a framework, a philosophy that I think, started to craft, which basically has to do with improving your quality of life, improving your sense of meaning. And it basically does this based on the assumption that you're the person who can best solve your own problems and answer your own questions.
Right.
Because oftentimes somebody's like, I can't sleep. Like, I got to go Google it. Right. Or like, I don't know what I want to do with my career. I'm going to go ask somebody who's wiser than me, and they can give me the answer.
Right.
And so the problem that I have with that is that like nobody else has access to your subjective experience. They can't tell how things feel to you, whether things feel right, whether they feel wrong. They can't have access to your values.
Right.
And so it's like you have access to all that information. You can do experiments on yourself. Whereas like other people aren't going to like be patient enough to be like, let's design this experiment to see like what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And let me sit down and crunch the numbers with you and like think about this a ton and introspect.
Right.
Like you are the person who's running your own railroad, you know? And so basically it's like if you could remember everything you'd ever felt or thought or read or something like that, then you'd have access to all this like awesome information and wisdom that you've had over the course of your life. But I think that in practice, we all like read a ton of books and we have a ton of conversations and we have all these epiphanies, but then they like disappear once we forget them because we all forget them.
Right.
And so if you've ever like had this moment where you were like, I did this thing again and I knew not to do that, you know, then that was like a forgetting problem. It wasn't like that you never knew it. It was that you forgot. And so Learning Loop is basically like a note-taking philosophy where you take notes on what really matters to you. You like write down the quotes that really matter to you. You write down the experiences that really stick out. And then 2, you organize those notes so that you could find them in the future.
Access.
When they're useful. Yes. You make them accessible to yourself. And that can be in terms of like where you put them. It can also be in terms of what you have written down.
Right.
Because the way that you would phrase
How they're
something
formulated
could be like more accessible or less accessible to you. And then the third thing is actually going through the end of the loop and using your notes to solve your problems. Because if you never like consult this,
close the loop.
Yes, close the learning loop. And that's why he's my spokesman.
Rip Van Winkle.
Stuck in the peach pit. So basically that's the philosophy. And so I'm like trying to help people solve their own problems by them themselves doing experiments or them themselves paying attention to things. And I think that a lot of people take notes because they intuit that they forget things, you know? But like, who uses their notes? Like, who like consults their page of ways to overcome depression when they're depressed, you know, that they've written down and contributed to over the course of
or your
10 years.
30 voice memos of little ideas you had that, oh my gosh, why didn't I do?
Yeah.
I have so many of those. I will never find them.
Yeah.
Unless I start at the bottom.
Yeah.
And go back.
Yeah, totally. And you're never going to do that. That's just like so daunting and so exhausting.
I have better things to do. I'm just kidding.
You have better things to do. Like, does that tickle your fancy?
Can you rephrase?
Does that resonate with you?
No, yeah, I think the main things that I think about are that people, like, in whatever lifestyle you live or whatever I don't know, everybody has their own belief system. I think most learning moments, either you learn things very gradually and one day you're just kind of different, like the sponge, kind of, you know, I don't know what the sponge effect, the sponge method, you know what I mean? Either you're sponging stuff up and you're just absorbing, and
the Winkle Van Rip. Yeah.
And you change just passively, you know. One day it's like, okay, wow. You know, I feel that way. I feel that way with guitar, you know.
Yeah.
I don't have a very strict practice routine right now.
Yeah.
But I listen to a lot of new stuff, and then when I go play with my friends, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, wow. Yeah. This is something I heard, and all of a sudden I'm incorporating into my life.
Totally.
Playing. But then I think the other way is that, like, the only way that people really learn otherwise is, like you're saying, you have these moments like, I'm super depressed, and then it's like an impression, you know. Maybe not necessarily an impression, but it's not just like an idea. They're usually accompanied, I feel like, by a feeling for me. You know, it's not just like oh yeah, that's cool. You feel something and it's an oh wow kind of moment. You know,
epiphany.
It's like it is a full epiphany. It's not just anyway. But I think that the thing is that when you look back, let's say you did write this down. You know, oh my goodness, I am so depressed, and I realized that if I can do this one thing, you know, if I can go to bed earlier, or if I don't eat or drink as much or whatever, or eat different food, I feel so much better. Yeah. When you reference that material again, I think the issue is that sometimes it's not nearly as profound or impactful. Like you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. I feel that for me sometimes. I look back at something and I go, yeah, like cool, you know, but it just kind of goes in and out. It doesn't resonate at all. Yeah. You just see the thing and go, huh. And no, go ahead.
I'm so glad that you are bringing up the two things that I think are most problematic with this philosophy. Or they're the best counter arguments to it.
Right. I didn't even think of them as counter arguments.
Yeah, but I'm just glad.
They're just issues with learning in general.
I'm glad that you didn't like say like that just sounds awesome. Like yeah. You know, like you're talking about real problems with it.
Yeah.
Or that you face. And I think that is like fundamentally why it makes sense that the podcast exists, is because I thought when I forgot my epiphany and I was like on the third time forgetting my epiphany, I'm like, why can't I make this so I find this when I need it? Like, I can't imagine that if I'm on like my 10th episode of like eating too many cookies, if I read like a journal entry, if somebody forced me to read a journal entry about every time I ate cookies and ate myself sick, that on the 11th time, I would be like, I'm going to do it again. You know, like if you forced yourself to grapple with the past and like the truth of it, would you do it again? And I think that in some sense you would, because like,
I think you would, because
you wouldn't believe what you wrote in a way.
Yeah. Like that's the issue, is there's no real way to transplant yourself back, or at least I'm sure there is. People are probably really good at this, but it's difficult to move yourself back to that moment, to what you felt. It was like, my goodness. Sometimes it's positive. Like, I love doing this thing. I want to do it all the time. Yeah. Yeah. And then I don't. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's 4 months and it's like, dang, why haven't I gone to this thing again that I felt so inspired by? Or I don't know, you know?
Yeah. No, totally.
But that's the issue. It's getting back there.
So if you say in your notes, let's go back to the cookie example. if you say in your notes, because this resonates with me.
Yeah, okay.
I can tell. Does it? I couldn't tell.
That's like,
so going back to the cookie example, like if I write 8 cookies again, didn't like it. And then I read it, I don't think that's going to be persuasive to me that wants to eat the 10th cookie. I'll just be like, it's different this time.
Right. There's a million reasons.
If alternatively I said, I thought that it was going to be different that time. I was like so sure that all I wanted in the world was that cookie. And like, it seemed so undeniable to me. And like, when I first bit into it, it really was so delicious and I loved it. And then it lasted 3 seconds and I started feeling sick. And the second bite wasn't good. And the third bite was like outright disgusting to me. And I was like mad at myself
personal and visceral.
for the rest of the night. Like, what's the matter with me? And so if you say, listen, person who's struggling with the cookie, you're going to be happy for 3 seconds. And then you're going to like wake up in the morning feeling like somebody tried to assassinate you with the hemlock. Somebody
you did not just make an Apex Legends reference. Oh man, this goes out to all my fans. Lampshade. I don't stream anywhere, but I know you support me in my gaming endeavors.
Like, I feel like somebody would have poisoned me. You know?
Or they hit you in the head real hard.
And so if I say to myself, it is not worth it, do not do it. Like, that's a different thing than ate the cookie, didn't like it. And so
one of the have 10 pages in your notepad, and they all say ate the cookie, didn't like it.
Yeah,
just never learn.
Yeah.
Okay.
So imagine if you like tried to consult the wisdom on time number 10, and it didn't work, and you're like wondering yourself on time, like after time number 10 when you felt miserable, why didn't that work? I like did the learning loop thing. It didn't work. You might realize to yourself, well, that thing wasn't convincing to me. And then you would ask yourself, how would it be convincing to me? And then that gives you an iteration to perform, and you come back to it and you would say like, okay, I have a theory now that I need to be more persuasive to myself. I have a theory that to be more descriptive and to be more explicit and to be more clear with this letter to myself, that's going to be more persuasive. So then you try to write the clearer letter, and the next time, on the 11th time, it's either going to work or it's not. And then you'll observe, did it work or did it not? Data. Yes. That's the learning loop thing. It's like,
that's the scientific method, folks.
You take a note, you organize it for yourself. You look for it. Did it work? Fine, if it worked. If it didn't work, then you need to like take the note again in a way, or organize it again in a way and rewrite it. And then like use it again. And it's like this upward spiral, hopefully.
Okay, but so then, but it seems like then a lot of the issue with just the note-taking in general comes from the format.
Okay.
Right? Like, because that's a lot of it. You know, if you're not accessing these notes, it's twofold, right? Like, you have to express them in a way that is going to be persuasive to your future self.
Yes.
But also, like, the format. Like, what do you feel like is a format that works? Because most people, when they take notes, some people carry on little notepads. I know people like that. I don't do that. But I take a lot of notes on my phone.
You do?
I do. Oh, I take, song lyrics or little ideas. You know, even things like this where I'm like, wow, I feel really good right now. Yeah. And this is why. And, like, I use it like a journal, just my notes app. Yeah. I never write more than, like, 3 sentences, though. I can't do the full journal thing. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why would you?
Yeah, it's dumb. It's not dumb. All you journalers out there.
Listen, you are powerful.
But so then the other issue is the format, and how would you address the formatting issue? Like, what is the approachable way? I don't know what the route was here, but how do people approach the formatting? You know, what works in terms of this learning loop philosophy?
Yeah,
looting. I don't even know what I said.
Looting loot. How do I do more of that?
Apex Legends. How do I loop faster?
Now, see, I'm a Final Fantasy guy. And what treasure could I find from what kind of chest? So, okay, so plan B is the path that I thought. Plan A is this. How's that?
What?
Plan B, you said, I don't know if this is the path that you envisioned.
Oh, in terms of the route of the podcast. Yeah.
And I was like, this is plan A, and plan B was the route that I planned out.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because this is more important.
Smart. Reprioritize.
Yeah. So what's the format? That's a good question. So you can get like anywhere from like incredibly basic to incredibly sophisticated. And I would say like at the most basic, it's like the thing that matters most to you in your life, you keep on a slip of paper and you carry it around with you everywhere. It's laminated, let's say, or it's tattooed on your body or something, you know?
Like Memento. Have you seen Memento?
Dude, literally?
You have, right?
Yes.
It's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Next week, we are doing, literally, bro, we're doing a Memento episode.
Okay, should we
where we dissect it? Because it is the Learning Loop podcast. I'm serious. Memento is the Learning Loop
insane.
podcast.
There's a lot
the philosophy.
So many more. You just skipped like 80 things. Huge factors.
Yeah, maybe I don't want to associate myself with Memento as much. But it's like until the last 5 minutes where you learn.
You know nothing.
And it's like the philosophy of it, of like I have to write these notes so that I understand them in the future. You know?
He has to do it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. And if he doesn't, like it's gonna lead him down this weird way.
Oh man. Okay, we gotta save that.
No, we'll save that. We'll save that. But like literally come back for the Memento episode next week because that's gonna be sick.
That movie it's insane.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies where no one watched the same movie.
Yeah.
You know, you just, because there's so much you don't know, you just have to theorize, like, this is what I think. But, well.
No, we literally are going to watch that movie this week. And we're going to be, like, jotting down our notes, like, making the podcast episode.
Okay.
The outline. Okay, so.
By then we'll have a producer.
Yeah, by then we'll have a producer. So, anyways, going back to the format, a tattoo. I mean, that's dramatic. But that's, like, if you had, like, the most important thing to you in the world, and it said, sleep 8 hours on your thigh.
Your wife's name.
That's
don't cheat.
Not very actionable.
Don't cheat on your wife.
Yeah. If that's the most important thing you do in your life, then like having a tattoo will make sure that you see it. And if you do the instruction, that's like a super powerful tool. You know, you could just ignore it. Like I'm not saying that writing it on your body is going to solve the problem for you for the rest of your life, but it's like that's the simplest it would get. The next most sophisticated, I think, would be like the Notes app, but in a structured way. Because you need to be able to navigate it. You need to be able to find something when you need to find it. So, like, what's something that you wish you would have remembered at some point? Like that you forgot, and you're like, I should have remembered that. I'll give you an idea to jar you. To scare you. I meant to
sorry, can
prompt
we
you.
Go back to the word jart. I don't think jump start jart. That's great.
Okay, so
no, I got one.
When I have an experiment idea for my science, shut up, Mark. When I have an experiment idea,
I hate this wall. Sorry, I'm gonna move forward like the teeniest bit, and the camera's just gonna deal with it.
Yeah. So when I have an experiment idea, I could either write it down, or I could just hope I remember it, or I could write it down and make it in a folder that's called experiment ideas, so that then when I'm like trying to design experiments in the future. I either just think to myself, what's a cool experiment I could do? Or I open up the experiment ideas folder on my phone where I've written down every experiment idea I've ever written down. And then I have probably, at this point, thousands of experiment ideas that will give me inspiration. And that's like, it's like a cheat code in a sense where in order to find those ideas again, you'd have to like be in the same context that you were in, doing the same thing that you were doing, like performing the same thought that you were performing when you came to that experiment idea. But when you like write down all these these ideas, it's like you can jump past having to think the thought because you like did all this work to think the thought in the first
you
place.
just know I need to experiment. It becomes a reflex.
It becomes like a resource.
But I mean, it's reflexive to
Yeah.
use your resource.
Yeah.
Where you just go, I got my things here.
Yeah. If it's rewarding, then it will become rewarding. Then it will become a habit, and that will become reflexive.
Right.
And so this gets all the way up to like the most complicated, which I would call, like, I use the software called Obsidian. Okay. Obsidian has like...
I lowered these way too much.
Obsidian is like your note-taking app.
Okay.
But there are these things called tags and pages. And so, like, if every single time I write down things about, like, let's say that you and I had a great conversation 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I wrote down, like, I had a great conversation with Mark today about, like, name your 3 things that we talked about that really surprised me and were, like, really thought-provoking for me. Then I would tag your name in the note. I would say, Mark Lanham.
And this is a real app that works this way.
Yes.
Okay.
And, I mean, the Notes app has tags.
Right.
But the problem is that, like, you can't use more than one tag. So let's say that I wanted to, like, have a list of, like, memories that I'd made with you, but also, like, business ideas that we have together. If I didn't tag all those, like, memories and business ideas as such with your name, then whenever I looked for the Mark Lanham tag, it would be like the memories and the business ideas are all like conflated together. And if I have 3 categories or 4 categories or 5 categories, it's just going to be like, oh, this is too much.
Yeah.
You know?
Can never sort it.
Yeah. But if I have these tags of like business ideas, then I could look for Mark Lanham and business ideas. And then I see every business idea I've ever had with respect to you.
Right.
And maybe if I want to like broaden my view a little bit, I just look for business ideas and I see the business ideas I had with Braden Lanham and with Jesse Lanham and with Alicia Lanham.
Parsons.
Yeah, formerly Parsons. Nay Parsons. Hi, Alicia. So I love Alicia, dude.
She's great.
She's like the person that she's probably like my friend from high school that was a girl that I laughed hardest with in my life. I love Alicia Parsons. Her name's Lanham now, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
No, she's hilarious.
She's so
makes
funny.
Their kids laugh so hard. I love it.
Dude, and she has such a great laugh. All right, anyways. So getting really sophisticated though, like I have a bunch of resources in my notes where like I have a principles page where I have like rules for how to live in specific situations.
Okay.
I have like a vision page where I like have written down what matters to me most in my life and how I'd like it to be. I have like an overcome page where I say like I struggle with this, like here's the thing that's worked in the past. I struggle with this, here's the thing that's worked in the past. And what do I struggle with? The same thing that everybody struggles with. I struggle with like FOMO. I struggle with like feeling down sometimes. I feel sometimes like this thing that I'm doing is meaningless. But like there have been things that I've tried that have worked to get me out of the meaningless thing. And that felt really good. And so I would put that under the meaninglessness section on my overcome page. And then next time I'm in the meaningless place, I would look at that page and I'd be like, oh yeah. Like when I like zoomed out on like coding this program that I'm coding and I asked, what am I doing this for? And then I got in touch with like, well, I want to write a paper. And the reason I wanted to write the paper is to answer the question, does ChatGPT help us get stupider or smarter? That's an interesting question. And then it's like, why do I want to do that? It's because I want to be a scientist who's like influential in the field. And that's going to bring me to these conferences where I'm meeting other really interesting people. And it's going to give me opportunities to write a book, or it's going to give me like, and it's going to like make me a living, and I'll be able to use that money to like take my family on vacation. Yeah. It's like, that's how you make it meaningful.
That's heartwarming.
You know? And like, that's a tool for me and I use it all the time.
Yeah.
And it like totally changes my life. And so to answer your question, like you do whatever works. That's how you structure your notes. And so like you have notes, use them to try to solve your problems and answer your questions. And then if it doesn't work, there's a reason it didn't work. It's not like notes can solve every problem ever. Like you don't know the answer to every question, or like you don't know how to solve every problem, but you know how to solve a lot of problems that you have not yet solved or that you'll have to solve in the future.
You've already learned the lessons.
You've already learned a lot of lessons. Yeah. And so it's like this very, very rewarding, very, very effective game cycle learning process,
Loop.
you know, learning loop. Whoosh. Learning loop.
Learning loop, rights reserved.
Yeah. But the other thing that I would talk about if we had more time today, that I think we should talk about in 2 episodes after the Memento episode,
Okay.
is your criticism that like you do a lot of changing on your own. Like
Right.
it's not the case that if you live 40 years without ever writing a note down, you wouldn't have learned anything. Like that's a foolish proposition. But I will say that like there are many different ways that you can change, you know, and like you can change in ways that are more drastic for the better, less drastic for the worse, more deliberate, less deliberate. And for me, it's just so obvious that there's so much that I've forgotten or so much that I've lost touch with that I don't want to have lost touch with, that I want to connect to the future me that needs that as a resource that could really use it.
Right.
And like, that's kind of the motivation behind all of this, is that I've been able to like make more meaning in my life and like make more sense of it, be more, I think, effective at like achieving the things that I want to achieve, feel more presence, feel more gratitude. Like it's basically, you know, it's not a perfect thing. Like there are moments where it's frustrating or like where I don't, like the reason that I have the podcast is to help think through how to do it well, given all the problems that I've had with it. Because there are problems that I've had with it. Like, and my hope is that I would like struggle with something for a month and then I'd be like, like what's going on here is X. And then I describe it in natural language. And then I come to you and I say, hey, like I learned X. And if you're like getting into note taking and you learn from my lesson, then that makes for a much more successful experience for you. And that's like, that seems like a really invaluable resource. And I want people to do this. Like, I think that people should do this. And I want to make it like as easy as possible for them. And so, yeah, I mean, I like am super inspired by Andrew Huberman, by Cal Newport, by these podcasters who like help me skip the legwork of having come up with ideas on my own, you know, like they give me almost like hacks.
What do you mean?
Well, it's like if you thought about,
or just keep going. I should have just let you keep going. I think it was gonna.
No, yeah. If you're thinking about a problem for much time, you know, such a natural way to say that. Much time.
Not just like a lot of time, but like much, so much time.
Like much time. Don't you think? So, like, I think that if you're grappling with a problem, you'll like find answers to it eventually. But if somebody wiser kind of comes along and says like, what about this? Then it can knock you out of your grooves of like what you think most of the time. And you can like have an epiphany. Like, have you ever read a book and you're like, this is exactly what I've been struggling with.
Yeah.
Like, I need this.
I literally will say, yo.
Yeah.
Yo.
You'll say, yo.
I was like, what?
The yo moment.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
As it's commonly referred to.
No, we should actually call that a yo moment, because an epiphany is something you make yourself.
Right.
But the yo moment is like responsive to somebody else. It's like if you say something to me, then I'm like, yes, dude. I mean, I would say yes because I'm a millennial. Gross. But if I were hipper, then I might say, yo, bruh.
Brother.
Brother.
Dear brother, I just cannot believe what you just told me.
Yeah, so I want people to like listen to the story and be like, wow, I'm like compelled by that. Because nobody's talking about this as I'm talking about, I think, of like the loop of like writing the notes, organizing the notes so that they solve your problems, and then like using them to do it, and then using that feedback from whether it works or not to actually like inform the way they write their next round of notes and like organize their next round of notes, you know? and then use it, and it like should get better and better and better. Like you should solve your problems, and you should add meaning, and you should like, be deciding and accomplishing these things that you want, ways of thought or like practices or whatever thing.
I guess I'm just trying to think about like actual examples, literal examples for me of like just things recently even that I've like learned, or epiphanies that I've had. I've realized lately I need to eat out less.
Yeah.
Not in like a, it's not like I'm eating out of myself out of house and home.
Oh, that's what you meant by...
I knew I shouldn't have tried that. No, but like, I eat out way too much. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I should just start cooking more.
So what's the reason you want to start eating out less? Is it because like it costs? Is it because you feel bad after?
Mostly probably money, just because I realized like, wow, I could be saving more money, or I could be using money on a different thing.
Yeah.
If I didn't DoorDash, once a week.
So what's your theory on what you would have to see for that to like what letter would you read that would be like, oh yeah, I shouldn't DoorDash? And
this is the President of the United States. Cease and desist. No, honestly, probably.
He sends a lot of cease and desist letters about eating out.
No, so I would say the main reason is because, for money, for sure. I could be using way more money on other things.
So if you read the note, you need to save money. Would that work?
No.
Okay, so what version of it would work? Like, what would you spend the money on? It would feel good.
It's like I would need to see. This is maybe silly. I feel like I would almost need to see like a breakdown of like, hey, guess what? If you didn't DoorDash once a week this month, this is something cool and semi-permanent.
Yeah.
That you could have purchased with that exact same amount of money that you don't have.
Yeah.
Because you were lazy and DoorDashed.
Yeah.
That being said, at the same time, I would also love to DoorDash every day of my life because it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's also kind of the worst, but it's so great. It's so great. Just a little Thai food, dude, right to your door.
So good.
You don't even have to get up.
So good.
Keep the show going.
Yeah. Let the show go on.
Literally.
But you have to like, you have a finite amount of resources, and so you have to like
swimming in dough.
Yeah, you have to deal with the way the world is, and like saying like I would love to have my cake and also eat it too.
This is sick.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so going back.
Oh no, go ahead.
Let me just close the loop on this. Let me just close the loop on the eating out thing. So if you said like you have to choose between DoorDash and what's the thing that you'd spend your money on? What's an example?
Oh gosh, I don't know. A new audio equipment of some kind.
Like a microphone or guitar?
Yeah, a new microphone, new guitar, maybe a new. I've been wanting to build a new board.
How much would that cost?
The new board?
Yeah.
Like probably at least $1,000.
$1,000?
Depends on how. I bet I could do it for like $800.
So you'd have to forego DoorDash what, 50 times? Does it cost $20?
Yeah, usually 20 or more. It's never below 20 for DoorDash.
On average, then.
Like never on 20. I would say the
Don't
average
lie
is
to me,
probably
dude.
24. Really.
24?
I bet average is 24.
Which means it's 25.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I didn't want to say it that way.
So that means 40 times DoorDash versus board. Like, is that clearly I'm choosing a board?
You lost me. What?
Is that clearly a board when you have to choose between those things? Is that clearly a board?
See, I don't know. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that linear all the time, though, is the thing.
Well, I'm asking you now, like in this moment, do you think it's obvious that you'd rather have a board than 40 DoorDashes?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I would love a smaller board. I need a different board, a solo gig board.
Yeah. Or imagine the day after the board you buy, or the day after the 40th DoorDash. Which one would you rather have?
I think if somebody came to me and said, hey, this is the 40th DoorDash, and this is how long it's been since, we started the count. 40 DoorDashes in X amount of days. I would probably be bewildered first off, and go, oh my God, I really should have just gotten a pedal board.
You would think that.
I would think that in the moment.
Mm.
But then that's where I feel like a lot of the times it's not that linear.
Yeah.
Because it really is, man, I'm so hungry. I don't have time right now to make food because I'm doing something or I'm going to be coming back from somewhere. I'm going to order DoorDash. It's not the end of the world.
Do you ever think to yourself,
but
I'll start next week? I'll stop eating DoorDash after this time. I'll be more prepared next time.
No, and I think that this is something that I'm hesitant to say on the podcast, but not in like that's not an extreme, but I think I've also been in a place like personally for probably the last year or so where I find myself changing. I've been changing a lot. I know that I'm growing. I feel like I'm learning a lot just by being alive. It's kind of been an awesome couple years for me, just in general. But I also, at the same time, am not super focused on self-improvement personally, which that's why I'm hesitant to say it, because I feel like the purpose of Learning Loop is in a way to accelerate and like, what's the word that I'm looking
Improve? Progress?
But like improve your improvement, not accelerate necessarily. Optimize, thank you.
Optimize, yeah.
Yeah, but more bang for your buck on the improvements that you make, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's not something that I actually have really been very cognizant of in the last while. I've been going through a phase of just like, I'm just living,
Yeah.
I'm just living my day to day, doing the things that make me happy, being there for my people, trying to create my art.
Yeah.
And so this is, I'm glad we're doing this because this isn't, I don't really think about this kind of stuff a lot, Like, because what you just asked is, when was the last time, or have I ever said like, tomorrow's the last day, I'm not going to DoorDash anymore starting tomorrow.
Right.
And honestly, I haven't, because I'm kind of in this place where I just sort of, it's just fine. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And I probably won't do it again tomorrow because that's extreme. 2 DoorDashes in 2 days. But do you get what I'm trying to say, though? No, it depends on who you ask. Depends on who you ask.
Yeah. No, I get that. I definitely get that.
You know what I mean, though?
So can I ask this?
Yeah.
Would you say that you don't, for the last year, experience regret?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
That doesn't mean that.
No, but I think...
As in sometimes you do regret.
Yes, I do. Oh, yeah. I do regret. But I also think what I've been working towards personally is getting to a place where I feel regret, or I don't know, whatever, you feel ashamed of something. We all make mistakes. I snapped at a friend, a week ago or something, and felt way bad. But I also am getting to this point where once I feel the regret and I acknowledge it, and hopefully, if it involves another person, just address it, fix it, communicate. I just move on, and I literally don't think about it ever again. Like, I'm not even, that's like kind of how I've been. I just don't dwell on things that I regret, because I did it. I know that I regret it. And I think that's one of those things, like we were talking about earlier, those negative feelings, that negative feedback, that's one of the biggest learning tools, sadly, it should usually probably be positive. But you know what I mean? When you feel that negative, oh man, like, why did I'm going to remember that, for the most part.
Yeah. I think that it's pretty intuitive to think you'll remember that.
That's also very fair. I snapped at probably the same friend a month ago too, so. Right.
Yeah. And at the same time, would you ever be having a conversation with a friend, you're getting more and more mad, and then you pull out your notes and you look, and it says, don't snap? I don't think that would happen.
The practicality of that.
The practicality is not great.
Yeah, just the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
From a physical dexterity standpoint, I don't think I could get my phone out.
Yeah.
So I just had a little twinge.
Oh.
It actually kind of hurts really bad.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's fine. Like, not like, like bad, but weird knee pain.
Well, this is interesting.
Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack this whole thing.
No, it's fine.
These are things that I've been thinking about as you were sharing kind of the principles behind this.
Yeah, I do think that, basically if you feel, this is the thing, frankly, at the end of the day, if you feel like you're just totally fine and there's nothing you want to change, Learning Loop isn't for you. Perfect. But I'm serious. Like,
no, and
if you don't ever feel like, I wish I had more of this, or I wish I didn't have as much of this, or I wish that, if you don't ever feel like, ooh, like that, like I want that thing.
Right.
And if it's all like you're present, you're happy, and everything's taken care of, like I don't think learning loop's for you.
Yeah. I think that learning loop in and of itself is it's just smart. Like it makes sense. I think though that what's important is for people to determine, or there can just be different intentions with it. Because like I genuinely don't go through most of my day or my life like, oh, I need to fix that. But there are still things I want to improve and things that come to mind, or especially like when you have a positive impression, or you feel something that makes you want to make a positive change.
Yeah, I want more of that.
That's what right. Those are the things that I want to, and that's kind of how we first started talking about this. Like,
right.
Wow, this thing makes me feel inspired. I know that when I did this thing, like my creative output felt turned up, dialed.
Totally. Yeah.
I think like for someone like myself, that would be more of the motivation, is more of like a journal that you're actually going to read. Really an accessible journal that you're going to read, that it's not necessarily like, oh man, I have to refer to this when I'm struggling, but like, what have I been feeling lately? And oh my gosh, I'm glad that I remembered that because I need that. Did any of that make sense?
No, totally.
We listen back. It's just like,
we probably shouldn't do this podcast thing, dude. I'm sorry I ever invited you.
Mark just spewed gibberish.
No. For me, one of the principles of learning loop there would be you have the epiphany. The natural thing is I'm going to write it down and then I'm going to remember. Or even like the feeling is powerful enough that I'll remember that. Yeah. How could I not remember that?
Right.
Of course I'll remember that. Problem is that oftentimes you don't remember it. And for me, the question that you answer as you go from take note to organize note to use note, back to take to organize to use, is that like you might realize that you need to, this podcast, like this has been super fun to like get in here and to like look at each other and be like super focused because we're on camera, we're on microphones. Like,
sure, I can't even
I just don't think we would have had a conversation like this if we hadn't done this.
No, I agree.
It would have been good in a different way maybe. But like, I'm like, wow, as I'm doing this, I'm like, I want to do more of this, Or like, as we've jammed in the past, it's like, I'll think, wow, this is so much more rewarding than playing guitar on my own.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, I write down, wow, like playing guitar with Mark was so much fun today. Or like doing that podcast with Mark was so much fun today. So then I have to answer the question, when am I ever going to see that note? And maybe it's on I have a free day. What do I do with the day? That's like really rewarding. Because I could do an infinity of things, like when you come to a Saturday and you realize I'm free today, then oftentimes you'll just like wake up and you'll call a friend because you're bored and you guys go and see a movie or like whatever thing. It's more rare that you do the thing that you have the epiphany, like, wow, I've never done that before and I need to do that a bunch more, you know? So if you have a note that says like most rewarding things to do with free time or something, and then every time you have one of these epiphanies, like you're not going to put Instagram on there. Like you're never going to come out a portal of Instagram and be like, wow, that
so
felt
great.
good.
My brain doesn't feel melted at all.
Yeah, no. And you're never going to write like, are you going to write like watch Netflix on there? Are you going to write like take a nap? Like, sometimes that feels great, but like, I don't know. There's just like a billion things that I do all the time just because I'm in the habit of them. Check the New York Times. Like I'm never going to be like, wow, I'm so glad I did that,
The Times today was awesome. I just got to say it. It was so good.
Yeah. So, but when I like do a podcast or when I jam or when I go on a 5-hour hike, I do have those like, that is like rich and satisfying. And so only when you have that reaction does it go on that note. And then like when you have a free day, you don't like just let the day come at you. You go to that note and you look at the things and you decide what to do like the day before. So that's my theory about how it works. Then maybe like 2 years later, I realize that I love podcasting or I love going on a 5-hour hike. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, never did I find that when I was using my notes. And so that's weird. Like, there's something off there because I didn't find the thing that I did once right. And so maybe instead I'm like, okay, well, if I don't look there, where do I look? And it's like, oh, like I'm on my planning page every single day as I plan my days. And so maybe I need to like put a section in the how-to list that says like, if you have free time, refer to that page where you keep all of your like super rewarding ideas. And what I noticed there was that I had a theory about where I'd find that information, and it was wrong because I never went back there organically. But then I was like, where could I put that I would see it? And it's like, I use my planning page every day already. I do. And I use my overcome page all the time. And I use my principles page all the time. So it's like, I know that I visit those pages. And so I can engineer the flow from like my automatic cues, go to the principles page or go to the planning page because I do my nighttime planning of the next day every single day, you know? And
that's impressive.
I'm going to consult that. And now I have like made it accessible to a future me because the future me is probably going to keep doing the things that the old me does. And that way I have learned where I do look instead of where I don't look. Like, do you know who Kevin Kelly is? He's this journalist and he has this 68 bits of unsolicited advice because he's turned 68 and he gave this like all this advice to his progeny. He wrote a book about it.
Okay.
And one of the things was, if you are looking for something in your house and you misplace it and then you can't find it and then you do find it somewhere else, you don't put it back where you found it. You put it where you first looked for it.
Right.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so basically, I think that the same thing applies here, where like you have something more you want to do of, figure out where to put it so that you'll find it, and then consult it and use it, and iterate.
I just think that's a powerful statement. You should say that again. Just reiterate that for us.
The Kevin Kelly thing?
Yeah, just in relation to the learning loop. I just think that was very well said. I wanted to hear it again.
So the Kevin Kelly thing is, if you are looking for something and you can't find it in your house, and then eventually you find it somewhere else.
Okay, I started laughing because it looked like you were going to laugh. Sorry.
And you find it somewhere else, don't put it back where you found it. Put it back where you first looked for it.
Right.
And so over the course of figuring out where you will look and where you won't look, you put these things that you need to find where you will look, and you learn where to put them so that you will find them by trying to find them. I don't know if that was at all similar to what.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think that's very profound.
Thanks, bro.
I hope somebody walks by and just looks right at me.
They will. I'm looking at you. So, anyways, next week, Memento. And the week after that, do you remember? Implicit automatic learning. Huh?
That's what I was
as opposed to learning loop.
say.
Yeah, the counterargument.
That's the sponge, as I call it.
That's the sponge. Newton's sop.
Newton's milk sop.
Newton's milk sop.
It's milkmaid.
Or the Darwin's milk sop.
I don't know.
Milkmaid. Minute Maid.
Do they both have milkmaids?
Yeah.
Was that a thing? Do you think that was a real thing?
It was a thing. Yeah. Milkmaid.
I don't want to laugh too loud. Oh, well, we should probably wrap it up for today.
Let's wrap it up.
This was great.
Yeah. Bro, this is awesome. I actually love you.
Dude, I love you, man.
Isn't that crazy how I feel that?
It is.
Man. All right.
Such a piece of shit. Just kidding.
Thanks for coming, bro.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for coming to
I was going to do my outro.
Studios. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Thanks for coming to Learning Loop. We'll see you next week.